What is going on, guys? This is Hold the Door DFS at Fantasy Sports Insight. This is an AFL Showdown breakdown for Thursday morning slate, locking at 4:40 a.m. Again, I am a niche DFS player, high stakes cash. I don't claim to know everything about AFL or know every tactic, but what I am trying to learn as a DFS player is how to use statistics and learning the game to create an edge for you and myself when playing AFL DFS. So let's get into the build. It is a showdown lineup, so it is just one game. I'm going to share my screen. And one thing I do know is that when we are looking at odds, so this is just one thing that I've kind of started to learn as I have progressed through this. So if you compare it to soccer, similar to soccer, like the favored team, and this is only a -140 favorite for I think it's Kilda against Carlton. You expect like possession to be more into that favored team. So when you get possession is when you're going to get the handballs, the kicks, the things like that. And then, then the defenders move up with, the team as well. And then how the defenders really benefit from being on a possession team is that they're able to move the ball around the back line and kind of just correlate with each other. So it's like a kick to you, a kick from the wing back to the center back, or halfback, I think is what they call it. You're going to get the kick, and then the person catching it's going to get the mark, and then they're going to either throw it or kick it, or handball it or kick it. So then, that correlation really adds up. That can be like 3, 6, 9 in just one little pass of play. And we have a player on this slate that we'll talk about in a second who is really important in that role. So it is basically -3.5, so less than a goal favorite. And remember, our goal is if it goes through the inner goalpost, behind is, as long as it just goes behind, is worth 1 point. So let's get over to our builds. And we do have Mega Ruler, one of our staff members here at FSI, does have our projections up. We will compare, we'll kind of scroll through our projections and what Daily Fantasy Rankings uses for their projections. They are kind enough to allow us to use their projections on our video content as well. So huge shout out to them. They have a lot of really great free content over at their site. So the ruck position is always a position where you usually only have 1 or 2 options. If there is a backup ruck playing, that might be playing more of a mid or forward position when whoever's the starter is on the pitch, then that kind of reduces the value of that player. So it's almost like if you have 2 guys splitting sets in soccer, that takes away a little bit from their value, where here is similar with the rucks. If you are splitting the jump balls that you take, the potentials for hit outs, then it lowers the value or the potential ceiling for that player. So if I hide the non-starters, you would see so Paddy Ryder was the player that was questionable prior to before I started this video, and now he is listed as out. So if he would have been in play, Rowan Marshall would have been the easy fade, because those two would have split that duty, and now it is going to be his by himself. And as you can see last week when he was in that role, where he was getting more of those hit outs, he did score 2 goals, which obviously boosts that score a little bit. But what it does show you also is just how active of a ruck he is. He's not just playing the hit outs and waiting for the jump balls. So I think in a vacuum, since Paddy Ryder is out, I do prefer Marshall even for the little bit increased price difference. Mark Panett, probably pronounced his name wrong, is viable too. I don't think the difference is huge between these guys. As you can see, he's performed pretty closely to that same average without any goals. So I think in your builds, if you need that extra $900, then I think it's fine to go down. But Marshall being on the favored team as well, I think is going to have more opportunities to do things other than just the hit out on the jump balls. So let's move over to defender, and let's just check the Rucks projections here. So we have Rowan Marshall projected for 60, and then we have Mark Pinette for 57.6 on Daily Fantasy Rankings. They have Marshall at 82, and then they have Pinette at 71. Now, the actual number, I'm not really sure what's going into their algorithm compared to ours. If remember, these games are all shortened, so it's not your normal DFS, 100 points that you would normally get in AFL when the quarters are 20 minutes. These are 16 minutes due to the COVID-19 pandemic that has shortened the games in order to help out the players. So so the Ruckmans on our projections are about 3 different, and here they're projecting them a little bit wider gap of like 11. So again, I prefer Marshall in a vacuum, but I think if you need that $900, you can feel free to pivot. Let's go to defender. So we have Sam Doherty. Probably pronounced his name wrong, so apologize for the AFL people out there who know all these people's names better than I do. But he is the most expensive player on the slate. And if you look at his game logs, 110 points, 95, 88, 97. I mean, and it's all the peripheral stats. It's everything you want in a cash play. His floor is probably 80 here, and that might be the bad game that you're going to get out of him. So I think for 9,300, he's still in play. I think because we typically find value in defenders that sometimes is a position that you don't want to pay that price tag for. So I definitely understand if that's not somewhere you go, because it does put some restrictions on your lineup builds. But I think just in a vacuum as a cash play, he's the best cash play on the entire slate. So looking at some value on our value. So if we sort here by our value, Jonathan Marsh is showing as one of our best values of the slate. And if we look here, he had 65 points in his first appearance last week. That did come with a goal. So he actually, I think, was playing more of a forward position than defender. So you might actually be getting a little bit of value here by paying this much for him here. My other favorite play here is Tom Williamson, who also only had 1 game last week for Carlton. Or has only played 1 game so far on our DK slates at least. And he had 64 points last week. So those are my 2 favorite value plays there. I think if we go up, Hunter Clark has had a decent floor, but 6K seems too expensive for him. And then if we look at, I think it was Patton had a similar floor to him for a lot cheaper, so I really liked him for at 4,600. And Jake Carlisle had a nice game of 60 last game, which was good, and actually took some ruck jump balls, so he had a couple hit outs as well. So I think paying down at defender is fine if you're not going to Doherty, but the middle there is a little not that great. So just some other defenders that are showing up here. Josh Battle, who I think is in the lineup, if I remember right, maybe not. Yes, he is right here. So you'll be able to see on here where guys we feel is some nice value on these defenders as well. Our highest, after Doherty, our highest projected defender is Clark, and then Carlisle, and then Cade Simpson. So Carlisle coming in as a nice value. And over here on Daily Fantasy Rankings, I think we're looking at something pretty similar. Battle here, Patton, Carlisle, all pretty nice value plays. And even Jaron Geary, I don't really know what his role is going to be. He's really popping on the Daily Fantasy Rankings as a huge value at 2,900, but that game log kind of scares me if you don't know a lot about why it was that. Only had 8 points last game. So let's move on to midfield. We have Patrick Cripps at 8,500. Has been a great player for them, and kind of everything you want in a cash play is the kicks, the handballs, the marks, everything is happening inside that midfield area that's where cash plays are not only the safest, but you have a lot of upside as well there. So I think he's definitely a play. Just when I was kind of doing some reading on it, Jack Steele is a really good defender of the other team's best midfielder and kind of does a good job at shutting down that role. So I think he might be doing that to Cripps, which makes me like Jack Steele a little bit more than Cripps for a cheaper price tag. And he's on the favored side of this matchup. Going down here, some other guys that stick out. Sam Walsh last game put up 90 points, which is really nice. And it didn't need any goals. So at 5,800, I think he's a great play for Carlton. I think Hannaberry, too, is a decent play. Had 2 games over 70 points. Last game wasn't very good. But at 5,200, I think that he is definitely a play. Gresham as well. His game logs aren't great the last 2. But I think it's because due to his eye injury that he was going through, it wasn't playing as often. But I really like him actually using him in the forward position just because he has a really nice floor as a midfielder. Jack Martin is more goal dependent, as you can see. He's got more of a floor of 40 points, but when he had those 4 goals, he scored over 80. And he is on Carlton's side, so I'm not as intrigued with him. With Billings, he's been a really phenomenal player for them too. And what I kind of like about him is he does have a little bit more upside of goals, but also has the nice floor of a cash play that we like. And then the last one I'm going to target or highlight here is Bradley Hill. Somebody a little bit more GPP for me, I guess, just because I don't really love the floor that I've seen in these games. And his price used to be lower, so you can see that it has gone up with probably a couple of his performances. So he's in play, but I don't really love him at 7,500. Moving on to the forward position, as I already said, I liked Gresham as in the forward position as a cash play because it gives you that floor. And in our projections, I think we have some of the forwards coming in as the best values on the slate. Levi Castlebolt, Mitch McGovern, and Ben Long. Even Dean Kent is showing it good. So McGovern on Carlton, really decent games, 42, 60, 45, 49 for 3,800. Super cheap. Ben Long, I like a little bit more being on the favorite side. And when I did a little bit of reading in and listening to some podcasts, come to find out that he is actually more of a defender. So what I like about that is he's on the favorite side. He's a defender. And so then he's going to be more of a cash play that you can get in a forward position that has a safe floor. He's not going to have the goal upside, obviously, but I think he's definitely viable at 3,900. Dean Kent showing a really nice value, and I think he, to me, seems a little bit more goal dependent because we don't see much from the peripheral side for him. And then Levi Casbolt, very goal dependent, but has been very good at it. I mean, look at the goals: 3 goals, 2 goals, 1, 2. So I think he's definitely viable at 5,200 with a lot of upside. So that's kind of where I would start. I really like Gresham playing in the forward position. I really like Jack Steele. And I probably would lean Rowan Marshall and then even start with Williamson or Marsh. So I think if you're starting here, it does, the salary 4,800 left per player is a little bit scary. So I think you could definitely go off of Rowan Marshall to Panett if you wanted to try to fit in Doherty or Dorsey, however you say his name. And then if you go down to Ben Long, you're looking still at having to punt quite a bit here. So that's why I think he does really restrict your builds, especially if you're going to play Jack Steele. You can certainly fade Jack Steele. I just think that in cash, that is a great way to go. So not an easy slate when we have those defenders or rucks priced up so incredibly high. And then you feel like you need to find a way to get them in your lineups. But that's kind of my quick overview. Again, I'm learning the game as much as a lot of you are that are new to AFL. So if I pronounce someone's name wrong, throw me a comment. If I said something incorrect, that's totally fine. I am learning. I'm using projections. I'm trying to watch as many of the games as I can, and I have learned a lot in a short amount of time, and I can't wait to continue to see that be profitable for me in the DFS side. So thank you again to DailyFantasyRankings.com. .au, where you can find this great cheat sheet for tonight's slate and every other game that they have available. We will have our projections available on our site along with this video. So feel free to subscribe to this video. Maybe throw us a tweet. We love getting free content out to you guys, and this AFL content is completely free right now, and we do have core plays posted in our Discord channel that you can sign up through our website at Fantasy Sports Insight. So that is fsidfs.com. Thanks for listening. Make sure that if you are playing, most of the starters are pretty secure, but there has been some late scratches and things like that. So if you are playing, you do need to commit to probably just waking up that hour before lock just to make sure there is no changes. And I will try in my Discord channel to notify if we do see some changes, because taking a 0 in a lineup is never optimal and likely restricts any potential GPP takedown for yourself. All right, thanks.